Good afternoon, Happy New Year, and welcome back to another season of The Hunt. We're back for season 2 after some hard negotiations with the network and a few agencies. We were able to get back on the air, so we're happy to be back. Hopefully everyone's 2021 is off to a great start. And for those that hadn't tuned in last season but have just caught the buzz in the tail end, The Hunt is a platform that's all about providing insight and advice to people that are navigating their job search or even hiring managers looking to add talent to their team. So I'm Kevin Roth. I'm managing director at Advice. We're a boutique recruitment agency here in New York. And I like to bring this forum each week and give some different insight and advice on different topics that you might be facing throughout the course of, like I mentioned, your job search or anything like that. So Monica, Happy New Year to you. I'm sorry you're still broke, but hopefully we can fix that. And hopefully this conversation will lead to you seeing some more income so you can actually go out there and enjoy yourself and live it up here in 2021. So today's topic is really about comparing benefits packages. And I think as a recruiter, I see this all the time where there's just not a lot of awareness about what other companies are offering. What's standard? What do I have it really good right now? Or are there companies out there that offer things better? And a lot of times these benefits can be a surprise to someone who thinks what they have is the standard, whether it be good or bad. So today I want to give some good insight coming from myself who works with hundreds of different companies. I see all sorts of different benefits packages. I want to share that insight with the audience and give you guys some good context on what to ask about, what to expect, what is normal, what should be a red flag or a concerning sign, and hopefully that'll help you in your next negotiation or just going in with a real open eyes into your next opportunity. So again, for those just joining, this is meant to be an interactive show. So anybody watching, please chime in, throw your questions throughout the show. If you're exploring an offer package right now and you have a benefits guide that you're looking through, bring those questions into this forum, and I'll do my best to get to each and every question before the end of the show. But without further ado, again, I want to start off by painting the picture. You know, you're going through a whole interview process. Everyone always thinks about salary and negotiating compensation, getting salary to as aggressive a point as possible. And everything gets taken care of, and then the benefits packet hits. And sometimes these things are 30, 40, 50 pages. And if it's your first time making a move, or you've only been at a few companies in your career, it can be pretty overwhelming. What are you supposed to be looking for? How can you break this down into simplistic terms? What can you do in terms of negotiating when it comes to the benefits package? Because a lot of times there's some surprises there. So I want to break that down into pieces. And first thing I want to talk about is, what should you be asking? And this really differs depending on the type of benefit that we're covering. But for today's episode, we're going to really focus on the 3 most common, I think, asked about benefits. And that's 1, medical, dental, vision, your real health coverage, comprehensive health coverage. 2 is really vacation, PTO, and understanding time off and how that works at this particular company. And 3, I'd say, is probably the 401k plan. A lot of people want to know about any sort of profit sharing, 401k, pension, anything along those lines. So let's start first with medical, dental, vision, because I think, especially nowadays, everyone wants to really make sure they're covered and they have the proper coverage. So when it comes to medical, dental, and vision, there's a few things you want to ask. Number 1 is probably how much. And I think this is where the biggest disconnect comes into play, because it varies tremendously from company to company as far as how much benefits can cost and how this all works. So when finding out how much, to give you a sense, in my experience with all the different companies that I work with, when it comes to cost for just an individual, I'd say it can vary anywhere from fully covered to, say, $300, $350 a month. And anywhere within that window, I'd say, is relatively reasonable and should be considered in the bulk of the bell curve. So anything outside of that, those are things you want to really discuss with the company. If it's $500 a month, $600 a month, $800 a month just for individual coverage, that could be a bit of a flag for you. And I think those are things you want to understand. So anybody out there who's getting fully covered medical, it's not the standard, but you still want to maintain a certain level of equatability to the market. So take that into account. I think anywhere from $0 to, say, $350 a month probably falls into that average category. Anything really above that is something you want to look out for and be aware of. And quite frankly, companies should really be aware. If any hiring managers are watching this, or HR teams, if your individual coverage is above that number each month, you're behind the curve in terms of the competitive market. The second most important factor is really, when do benefits kick in? So health, medical, dental, vision, it's important. People can't be without coverage. So finding out when those benefits kick in is really critical. And this varies also anywhere from day one of employment, which is sort of I'd say it's an outlier. That's not usually most common, but it's great when it's there, all the way through, say, 90 days. That grace period is typically common. Now, if you find a company where benefits don't kick in until 5-6 months, that's another thing you want to really think about and address with them and see if there's any way to work around that. So when it comes to timing, again, say anywhere from first day of employment to 3 months, 90 days, that's really the window you want to look for. And if you're currently at a company where when you started, it was day one, don't get turned off if you're at a company where it's a month in. It's not uncommon. That's actually still a very good program for a company to get you enrolled within the first 30 days. All right. So first we talked about, again, coverage cost, wanting to stay within that band, and then timeline, and really understanding that a lot of companies are anywhere from first day of employment all the way through 90 days. So the last piece is it negotiable, right? Can you negotiate these things with a potential employer if it's really out of the ordinary for what you're used to, or you're just not happy with kind of how things are laid out from a benefit standpoint? And when it comes to medical, dental, and vision, usually it's very difficult and very rare that a company is going to change the structure or the cost structure of their benefits plan for one particular employee. So when it comes to cost, what you can do on the negotiating front is work that into your compensation discussion. Try to offset that additional benefits cost with a little bit higher salary. And that can help to tweak things, because it's very rare that a company is going to be able to change the cost of coverage itself until their next plan year. In terms of timing, if a company takes 3 months to kick off benefits, again, it's tough for a company to reformalize how that's going to work. So what they can do is potentially help cover your COBRA for a month or 2 months until those benefits kick in. Again, this is part of like changing jobs, and every company's gonna have different policies. So you don't want to really push the envelope, because if it's 30 days, 60 days, you got to be aware that that's the way most companies operate. But if you do need benefits to kick in sooner, just make sure you work that into the conversation. Try to find creative solutions to those problems. All right, so that kind of covers the core concepts of medical, dental, vision. And again, if you have questions, please work those in, throw those in the comments. I'd love to get to as many of those as possible, and make sure that I'm helping out as many people as I can throughout the course of the show. But the next piece is vacation. We all love taking trips, not so much these days, obviously, but hopefully we're getting out there more and more. And PTO is always a very hot topic. Every company's a little different. Certain things sound good on the surface, then you dig into them and they're not so good. It's all different semantics and word structures that throw you off. I still, in working in recruiting for 7 years now, I still can't tell you the difference between a vacation day and a personal day. As many times have I tried to understand that. But ultimately, let's talk about total PTO. So this is usually a huge hiccup for people, because as you have more tenure with a company, you tend to accrue more vacation days. If you're out there watching this and you are changing jobs for the first time in 5 years, you're likely going to find that what you're stepping into is not going to have the same amount of PTO as what you're used to, because you've probably earned your way to that higher amount. So I would say, again, standard, you'd like to see a company anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks PTO starting out from day one. Anything less than 2 weeks is a little bit of a concern that I would have, and I'd really want to get a better understanding as to why that is. Maybe they have double the holidays. They take off, a few weeks throughout the year at random times, so you do actually have more days off than normal. They just don't fall under PTO. But if it's really a company that has less than 2 weeks, that's usually a little bit of a concern of mine, and I make sure I dig into that a little bit further. So in terms of vacation time and total PTO, 2 to 3 weeks is really where your standard window is, and that's what you want to stick with going forward. Now, some people will ask about, well, what about unlimited vacation? So if anyone's ever flown, obviously on certain airlines, you get the flyer miles, and you get these huge discounts, and then you go to book your holiday trip, and you realize there's blackout dates, and you're wondering, well, I earned these points. Why can I not use them whenever I want to use them? And you have like blackout dates around the biggest times you travel, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays. Similar concept with unlimited vacation. So if you're coming from unlimited PTO and you're going to a company that has 3 weeks of paid time off, there's a few benefits that you have to realize. Number one, when you accrue time off, the company typically has an obligation to pay you out on those unused vacation days. And you also are able to legally use those days at any point that you want. Obviously, you use your discretion as a good employee. You don't want to leave the company in their biggest time of need, but you own those vacation days. You've accrued those days. With unlimited PTO, as great as it sounds, studies show that you don't use as many days as you normally would if you had set days. And also, there are quote-unquote blackout dates. The company, because you haven't earned a specific day, company has a lot more power and autonomy about how they want to use their discretion on those days. So don't get caught up in unlimited days and can you use those. When it comes to vacation, 2 to 3 weeks is really standard. If you can get more than that, it's fantastic. But just keep an open mind. You don't want to see yourself lose out on an opportunity over terminology or jargon. All right. And in terms of negotiability, if that's a word, vacation is one of, I guess, all the benefits that's probably sometimes the most negotiable, but it has to be done in a conservative way, feeling out the company, seeing if there's anything they could do to bump you up a level or give you a few extra days based on where you're coming from. Give it context. Don't just throw out a request, but show them this is where you've been for the past few years. You don't tend to use all of it, but you really have become accustomed over the past, 3-4 years of having this many days. It just seems a little weird to take that step back. Is there anything they can do? And more often than not, there are some ways you can maybe get a little creative to get yourself at least an extra day or two, but it all depends on the policy of the company. Okay, so we talked about medical, dental, vision. We talked about vacation. Make sure, again, if you have any questions, throw them in now. We got about a few minutes left in the show. The last one's 401k, pension, profit sharing. So unfortunately, pensions are pretty much a lost art. They really are. You have very few companies that operate pension plans anymore. And I've had people that have reached out to me that ask me, I'm looking for a company that has a pension because they're used to it. And they're just not aware. So for those watching, unfortunately, pensions are very, very rare. If you find a company that has it, that's spectacular. And you should be really psyched because that's not a normal thing. And if you're coming from a pension plan, don't be short-sighted and only going for companies that also offer one because you'd find yourself with a very limited list. When it comes to this kind of perk, I think 401k plans are the most common. So in thinking about 401k, a few questions you want to ask. Number one, is there a match? Most companies, I would say, do not match, but some do. And there's a bunch of different matching programs they could offer. So do not be turned off or shocked if you're coming from a company that matches your 401k and now you're going to one that doesn't. Similar to PTO or what we talked about, medical, dental, vision. If you're used to getting 6% matched on your salary and your salary is $100,000, that's $6,000 in value getting put into your 401k of free money each year. Work that into your compensation negotiation. It's not going to be common that a company can all of a sudden institute a matching program specifically for you. So you have a better shot working that into your compensation negotiation than anything else. So do they have a match? And the second piece is, when does it kick in? Always finding out when that plan kicks in. And I've seen 401ks anywhere from 30 days to a year until you're eligible to contribute. Company has a plan which 2-3 years down the road. I'd be a little curious to find out a little bit more about that. All right, so I hope this session gives everybody a good context and good perspective on the different ways you can approach benefits, what you should be looking for, what you can negotiate, what you really can't negotiate, how to ask about these things, and the key components that you should be finding out. But I think you should really break it down into how much these things cost, or how much do they contribute, or how much do I get, and is it negotiable, and being able to navigate around when these benefits kick in and when they take effect. And that should help guide you. If you ask those 3 questions as you're going through the offer process, that should give you enough context around comparing it to your current situation and making sure you can make ends meet as much as possible. All right, so I hope everyone enjoyed this session, the kickoff. We're starting off with some real relevant topics, and we'll work ourselves into some more complex areas as the season goes on. But thank you so much for tuning into the first season of The Hunt. If you have questions as you're watching this and you're watching it later on in the day or over the weekend, throw your questions in the comments. I'll make sure I get to those throughout the course of the week and answer as many questions as I can. But we'll have a lot of fun this season. We got a lot of good guests coming up. We'll have some special guest hosts. And hopefully everyone really enjoys and gets value out of this as you're setting off on your job search or looking to hire talent. So thanks as always for tuning into The Hunt. Happy New Year one last time to everybody watching. Have a great rest of the week. and your first official work weekend of 2021. And we'll be back next week with a brand new episode of The Hunt. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.